Please join me to welcome the Honourable Chris Bowen, MP.
Thank you. Thank you, Adora. Your Beatitude, Reverend Fathers, my many parliamentary and council colleagues, distinguished guest friends, Shlama Lokom. Tonight we gather to commemorate those Assyrians who have given their lives in the past for committing no crime, for doing nothing wrong, but simply for being Assyrian, for being people of faith and for living that faith. We've done this before. We do it every year. But tonight we do it under a dark shadow. Dark shadow of the events in Iraq, which remind us minute after minute, hour after hour, that the sacrifice and contribution of the Assyrian people continues. And tonight we should use this opportunity to say no more. The Assyrian people have suffered far more than their fair share in the past, and they should suffer no more. But my message tonight to you remains one of hope, because the Assyrian people, although it may not seem like it today, the Assyrian people will one day be free. The Assyrian people will one day be able to live in Iraq and Iran and Syria or anywhere in the world and practice their faith in freedom. It is important that we remind ourselves of this today, because the cause of the Assyrian people is just. The cause of the Assyrian people is right, and eventually, justice and freedom will win. We have to remind ourselves of this. And it's very important, as a member of the Federal Parliament, that I say to you, what is happening in Iraq is unacceptable. It cannot be allowed to stand, and it cannot be allowed to continue. But even more than that, I hope, as you all hope, I know, that in the last week we may have started to see the beginning of the end of ISIS. There may be some way to go yet. There will be some way to go yet. But we all hope and pray, and I believe we have started to see the beginning of the end of ISIS. But let us remind everybody not to lose what at the moment is a huge challenge, but what may turn into an opportunity. As ISIS is expelled from Iraq, let us use this opportunity to say to the world, the Assyrian people deserve a place of freedom. The Assyrian people deserve a homeland where they can live in practice Christianity without fear. This is the opportunity. We cannot let this opportunity go to waste. The world's agenda is a crowded place at the moment. Wherever you look, there is tragedy. There's tragedy involving Australians who commit no crime other than go on holiday. There's tragedy around the world. And it has been hard for all of us to ensure that this tragedy, the tragedy of the Assyrian and Chaldean people, gets attention in this crowded international agenda of many tragedies over the last few months. But, again, just in the last week, we've seen that this has been possible. And around the world, here, many thousands of kilometres from Iraq, people say to ISIS, you say there are three options: pay a tax, convert from Christianity, or die. we say no. There's a fourth option: to stay and to fight and to be free to live a Christian lifestyle in Iraq. Tonight we commemorate those who gave their lives 100 years ago, those who gave their lives 80 years ago. 100 years ago was the first time, I suspect, that the Assyrian people and the Australian people came together. When Captain Savage rode to the protection and freedom of the Assyrian people and said, "Stop, step no further, I will protect these people," it was the first time an Australian had stepped in to protect an Assyrian person 100 years ago, almost 100 years ago. Little did he know that so many Assyrians would come to make Australia their home. But he was a trailblazer for Australian support of the Assyrian people. And we must continue not only to honour that tradition, but to live that tradition until the Assyrian people are free. Then Australians and Australia and the Australian Parliament and every single one of us will continue to live that tradition. You need to know that, as I know you do, and every Assyrian around the world needs to know that there are senior people in Australia who care and will take what action is necessary, whether it be through our immigration program, whether it be lobbying through the United Nations and elsewhere for protection of the Assyrian people, whatever it is, that what needs to be done will be done. I have a message in my pocket from Bill Shorten. I'm not going to read it to you. Hermes Shehen has already put it on the AUA website. You have many speakers. You don't need to hear the message. What you need to hear is that you have senior people in the Australian Parliament who understand. Bill Shorten met with Hermes and David a few weeks ago to talk about this, to hear the concerns of the Assyrian people. You need to know that we in Australia have these people of seniority who understand the Assyrian issue and who care and who will act. This has been raised with the Iraqi ambassador, and he's been told the opposition stands in support of the Assyrian people and their quests for freedom. It's important that that message goes out, but it's important even more so that tonight the message goes out many thousands of kilometres from Iraq that Australia cares and stands with the Assyrian people, and the message, a simple one, goes out: Allaha natia olakim al-umta at-tareta. Basim Arab.